how many people do we have? 31. Let's wait for a bit more. Okay, still cannot. Can you already fill in your attendance? Not
No,
yet.
sir.
Not yet. Okay. It's because the session is not open yet. Does it always happen to other classes as well?
No, it's not. Often the lecturer buat bisa buat langsung tap sir.
Yeah. So I have problem like this is the second time like in this class. Okay, so let's just start. I will show you the session in the e-learning. Hold on. Okay, forget it. Right. So I will share screen, and this is what we are going to do today. We are on session 2. We will talk about how to structure our group presentation. You have already been um, distributed into small groups, and you will soon start your group assignment. And it is important that you are familiar with how to structure your presentation, which is just going to be 10 minutes. Okay. And if you have 3 members in the group, then it will have to be divided into 3 people. So what we're going to watch today is 3 videos, how to structure in general, and then there's a short video on how to start a group presentation and how to end a presentation. That means there is something in the middle, which is the body of the presentation. It's the most important part, but you don't see a video here for that. The video is a separate video, which is actually I mistakenly put the video in session 3, designing a presentation, but actually it should be part of session 2, right? Once again, I need to remind you that in group presentation, each member of the group will have 3 minutes to talk, to present. Okay? So it is important that when you structure your presentation together, every member of the group knows what he or she is supposed to do within 3 minutes. If you do it over 3 minutes, you take your friend's time, okay, and you give a hard time to your friend, because then your friend will only get less than 3 minutes. But the same portion of the presentation will still have to be done by your friend. Okay, so strictly 3 minutes should be kept all the time by everybody, and then the leader of the group will have an extra 1 minute. Okay? The leader of the group will do this the starting of the presentation and the closing of the presentation. Let's say 30 seconds for each. 30 seconds for the opening, introducing the members of the group, introducing the topic, and then another 30 seconds will be allocated at the end when the presentation comes to its end, and probably some concluding points need to be made in the closing section of the presentation. Okay, so we will look at how to structure now. But hold on, I will go back to CU in order to see if I can already open. Yep, okay, it's there, good. I can see everybody. Still some kosong, kosong, kosong. Okay, so let's go back to e-learning. So it's open now. You can do your attendance. Okay, while doing that, let's watch the first video, structuring a presentation, and pay attention to what needs to be done by the group when you prepare your group presentation together.
Your work can feel much smoother with Monday.com WorkOS. This smooth.
How do you determine the structure of your presentation? In a nutshell, the presentation should be logical and clear. The audience expects a certain structure, and you should meet this expectation. Each presentation should have an introduction, body, and conclusion, and it should be presented in this order. In the introduction, you introduce the topic, give the purpose of the presentation, and if needs be, explain to the audience what the outline of the presentation is. This is particularly important if you will deviate from the expected format.
All right, so remember the first video that we watched last week, comparing good presentation and bad presentation. You see when the second speaker, the lady, starting her presentation, she specifically mentioned the topic, and everybody can see the topic written on the PowerPoint slide, and also the purpose, the objective of the presentation. Why do I make this presentation on this topic? What goal, what objective I want to achieve? Statement of purpose can just be one or more than one. That really depends on the scope of your topic. Okay? And then an outline. An outline is like you're telling the audience, first we will discuss this or define this or explain this. Then after that, we will show you how the process takes place. And finally, we will close the presentation with summary of the key points. So when you do that, you are actually outlining the presentation, introducing the topic, stating what the purpose of the presentation is, explaining the outline briefly, and don't forget at the very start, introducing each member of the group. That needs to be done in roughly 30 seconds within the first minute. Okay. Then you move to the body. What do you do with the body? The body will then elaborate what you have introduced to the audience with regard to the outline. If you mention 3 points, then the body will have to contain 3 points. Okay? And that is where job distribution among members of the group can be clear. Okay? Yeah. It doesn't mean that one person, one slide for 3 minutes. Okay? You can design the presentation in a way that you think is the best. And we will look at how other people do that. And then conclusion, you have 30 seconds at the very end of your presentation slot to restate or summarize the key points that have been elaborated by each member of the group in 30 seconds. Okay, you can even make a recommendation or a set of recommendations. Okay, because of this, and this, therefore we suggest, we recommend that, blah blah blah. Okay, everything in 10 minutes, and there will be no question and answer session for the group presentation, but there will be groups who are not presenting. They will be assigned for writing feedback about the presentations made by the groups. Okay, so it's a written feedback. I will post the form, the template of the feedback form on our WhatsApp group later. And the group that is in charge of writing feedback will have to use that form and then upload the form and the Google Drive folder, which I specifically prepare for this class for that purpose. Okay. Yeah. Is there any question about this fish? All right. The speaker starts from the right, not from the left, because the head is on the right. Okay. And the head is the important part, and the tail is the concluding part. Okay. So let's continue with the video.
In the body, you will share your points and give clear, concrete examples the audience can relate to. Each presentation is then rounded off with a brief summary of what was said and with a concluding remark. After the conclusion, you can invite the audience to ask questions.
Now, that is not something that we will do.
The audience should know at all times where you are in your presentation. One way to achieve this is by including appropriate headings on your slides and using signaling language to help the audience along. For example, the introductory slide is usually titled Introduction or Background, and the conclusion, Conclusion or Summary. If you use the words moving on to the next, or that brings us to the next issue or point, the audience realizes that you are now changing topics. In conclusion, or to summarize, clearly indicates that you are coming to the end of your presentation. This signaling language is essential in your presentation.
Okay, using signaling language. When one person is presenting and that person has more than 1 point to present, it is important to remember that when you move from one point to another, then it will be very helpful for the audience if you use the appropriate signaling language, transition mark. Like the next point is, now I'm going to move to the next point, which is, okay, the following is, okay, so that is a signal for the audience to follow you moving from one point to another. So within 3 minutes, each presenter will try to do their best in order to use or optimize the use of signaling language. And when you move from the first speaker to the second speaker, you do the same thing using signaling language. Now I'm going to ask my friend to continue with what point. We mentioned the point. Okay, that will be good. Okay, then your friend will say, "Thank you very much. I will start with." Okay, so people know that that is the fishnet net structure. What you see on the slide, okay? Divided, sliced into small portions, okay? Each with its own particular heading. Of course, you don't write heading. You write the topic or the subtopic later on your PowerPoint slides. So I think this is the end of the first video, quite short. I will, let's see if there's any left. No, okay. And now let's take a look closer to how to start a presentation. This is supposed to be the job of the group leader. Okay? But if the group agrees, then it doesn't have to be the group leader. It can be any member of the group who does that. Okay? As long as it's a group consensus. If nobody wants to do it, then the group leader will have to do the starting.
English is my second language. As a vlogger, I deal with social media a lot, which is actually fun for
It always strikes me how people think about their presentations or how they prepare their presentations. And I'm actually talking about the first words, the first sentences of a presentation. What most people do is they think of a presentation, so automatically you think about a PowerPoint. So you make your slides. You look at your slides and you think about what will I say showing each slide. But my question to you is this. What are your first words? What are the first sentences? Very few people think about that. Just think a minute about the presentations that you have already seen in the past, maybe the presentations that you have done yourself. There is a cliché sentence that most speakers use to introduce their topic. They say something like, good morning, good afternoon, my name is, if they don't know you. And then there is this typical sentence, today I'm going to talk to you about. Now you might say, so what's the problem? The problem with this sentence is that you're actually answering the wrong question. You're answering the what question. What are you going to do? I'm going to talk about. If you think about it, most audiences know what you're going to talk about. Either you are introduced, or there is a program, or there is a meeting, so there is an agenda, so people know what your topic is all about. The most interesting question to answer is the why question. Why are you there to talk about this topic? And even more important, why is it important for the audience to listen to you? So my advice for you is to focus on the why question. Now, how can you do that?
All right. So, of course, if you use the cliche formula, you will be forgiven. I'm not going to penalize or discount your grade for that. If you start with good morning or good afternoon, today we're going to do a presentation on so and so topic. There will be no punishment for that. But there will be reward if you can think of another way, which is not a cliche. Okay. Now, her suggestion is you start not with what you want to do or what you are going to do. She suggested that you start with a why question. So if you translate that into an introductory statement by the group leader, then you would say, we choose this topic, name the topic, because we think this topic is important, because we think this topic is an urgent issue in our life today, because we have some interesting ideas about this topic. So that is how you translate why into an expression of introduction. So we choose name the topic because then you enter into why area. So after you introduce the importance of that topic, then you can continue it. In order to do so, we will focus on 1, 2, 3. Okay. Yeah, so you're doing outlining. And then, again, introduction of members of the group, according to her, in the situation that she describes, may not be essential. But in your presentation, you need to do that. So introduce the each members of the group to all of us. You will still have to do that. Let's continue.
I advise people to focus on a story to begin their presentation. Now, if you think about stories, stories begin with a time frame. Just look at fairy tales. They start with once upon a time. I'm not going to suggest that you start your professional presentation with once upon a time, but you can start with a time frame, something like yesterday, 2 weeks ago, last year, 3 months ago. Now, what's the kind of story that you can share then? use real stories. It has to be something that happened to you. It has to be something that you heard. So you can refer to a conversation you had with a colleague. You can say something like, yesterday I had a conversation with, but then there has to be a reason why you refer to that conversation. And there is this linking sentence that I use in lots of presentations. I tell my story, and then I continue saying, now, why do I tell you this? Because my objective or my goal with this presentation is to. So,
all right. So this can be quite challenging and it is fun and enjoyable if you like challenge, if you like opening a presentation with a story, a personal story, for instance. And if you're good at doing that, feel free to do that. But it will take extra time if you do that. It's good. It will be enjoyable. People will be drawn to you and to pay attention to you. But you need to also think of time management. So, for example, okay, once you start with why, okay, we choose poverty as an issue to present to you because we think that poverty, because we think everybody agrees poverty is a serious problem, but nobody wants to talk about it because it's an ugly reality. And then this is how you enter into a personal story to connect. This morning, for instance, on my way from home to campus, I passed by a slum area and I saw ugly houses, semi-permanent houses with people sitting outside, no toilet, no kitchen. Okay. So, and because of that, then you suddenly have an idea to talk about poverty in your presentation. But that takes time, probably already like 1 minute in itself. Okay? So this is not a must. You don't have to do this. In another occasion, when you have more time, individual presentation, you don't have to divide time among 3 people, for instance. You can do that. Okay. Yeah.
you can do is be very conscious of the company stories, I might say. It can be something that happened with a customer. It can be an article you read. It can be something that you heard about. It can be a conversation you had. So use these stories to begin your presentation, link them to your goal, and it will be so much more interesting for your audience because it will be crystal clear for them from the very first minute why it is important to them. So next time you prepare your presentation, focus on that why question and tell them a story.
Okay. 2 key points. Focus on the why question to begin your presentation and then tell a story. The second one is optional. Okay? But the first suggestion, focus on the why rather than on the what question. That is a very good suggestion, and you might want to adopt it in your presentation 2 weeks from now. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we'll stop this one. So that's how to open. That's how to start. And when you finish, okay, the last 30 seconds of the time allocated to your group, you will end the presentation. And this is an example of how to end a presentation.
Your work can feel much smoother with Monday.com WorkOS. This
Hi, it's Carl Kwan. Recently, I've taught you quite a few things about starting your presentations, which is something you should definitely be good at, because you want to open your presentation on the right foot. So let's say you're now a master at beginning a presentation, and you've done a good job getting through presenting your main content. The next thing you need to get good at is ending your presentation. Maybe I should have said the last thing you need to get good at. Anyway, that's what I'm going to show you, a really simple and effective way to end your presentation. Ending your presentation doesn't have to be difficult, but it's an important step in your presentation's progression. The ending should somehow connect the beginning and your main content. The reason why you have to do this is to remind the audience what they've heard and to make sure you have a nice beginning, middle, and end, just like any good story. So here's what you can say. And that is your subject. What I talked about was summarize your key points. The first thing I want you to do when you leave here today is call to action. Thank you.
All right.
Are there any questions?
When you say "and that is," and then you repeat the subject or the topic of the presentation, it's again, as he said, it serves as a reminder, restatement of what you say at the very beginning. After almost 10 minutes, people may be distracted and can't remember accurately the topic that you mentioned already in the beginning. So you want to say, and that's the end of our presentation on poverty. Okay? And that is all about poverty. Okay, yeah. That's so it's one way. Okay? Yeah. And what our group talked about was that it depends on what points of poverty you want to elaborate and distribute among the 3 members of the group. So, for instance, what we talk about was the causes of poverty, the impact of poverty, and how we can change the situation of poverty. Okay, so 3 points. That is, if you have identified those 3 points in the beginning. So when you say that, remember, make sure you mention those 3 points in the introduction, in the beginning. Okay? The causes of poverty, the impact of poverty, and what we can do to change or to make the situation better. Okay? Yeah. Again, you repeat here the 3 key points. Yeah. And we can also go directly to the causes, okay? Rather than mention we have discussed the causes, the impact. You can also already get into the causes, but in a much more briefly explanation or conclusion. Okay, so the causes of poverty, as we have explained to you, is number 1, social disparity. Number 2, unequal distribution of access. Number 3, okay, like so, those things are the example. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Call to action. So number 1, reminder of the topic, restatement. Number 2 is summarizing the key points. Call to action. That is when you recommend something. If there's no recommendation, then there's no call to action. So for instance, the first thing, you don't need to say the first thing I want you to do when you leave here. Okay. So right now, we have to immediately take concrete action together as a community to make sure that there is no poverty in the surrounding area where we live, for instance. Okay. Yeah, that is call to action. Of course, there is then at the end, thank you. That's enough. You don't need, thank you very much. I'm sorry kalau ada yang tidak berkenan and so on, like in pidato. Ya, mohon maaf jika ada yang tidak berkenan sengaja maupun tidak disengaja. Ya, no, you don't need to apologize for anything. Ya. Now, Skip, are there any questions? Because there will be no question and answer session. Okay. But there will be groups who are making or who are writing feedback for you. Okay. And so you can read their feedback later. Okay. Jadi, for the purpose of our first presentation, group presentation, there will be no QA. So it's not necessary for you to ask, are there any questions?
The third part of that, the call to action, is very important and shouldn't be left out. The reason is because people need you to give them direction or guidance or some way to make what you said a reality. So here's an example. And that is cross-cultural awareness. What I talked about was the importance and influence of culture, my own cross-cultural experiences, and I gave you a cross-cultural awareness framework. The first thing I want you to do when you leave here today is to implement the first step in the framework and write down your motivation for improving your own cross-cultural awareness. Thank you. Are there
Okay, this is an example.
questions?
Okay, so cross-cultural awareness is the key, is the main topic, and that is cross-cultural awareness. Okay? You can replace cross-cultural awareness with anything, with your own topic, for instance. Yeah. Okay, and then key points. What we talked about was 1, the importance and influence of culture. 2, our personal cultural experiences. And 3, cross-cultural awareness framework, which we offer to you, which the group offers to you. Okay? So those 3 key points summarized here are actually the key points that each member of the group will have to explain in the body of the presentation. And each point will get 3 minutes. Okay. Importance, influence of culture, 3 minutes. Own personal cultural experiences, 3 minutes. Cross-cultural awareness framework, 3 minutes. And then call for action. First thing I want you to, you don't need to say that. You can say, now what we need to do as a collective effort is to implement. The first step in the framework. You see, the framework here is not elaborated. Frameworknya itu apa, how many steps it contains. No, because it has already been explained in the body of the presentation. Okay, yeah. So you don't repeat everything in the concluding slide. Okay. So the first step of the framework, and then write down your motivation, 2 suggestions, okay, for improving our own cross-cultural awareness. All must be done in 30 seconds. Again, it doesn't have to be the group leader, but if nobody wants to do it, eventually it falls on the shoulder of the group leader to do the concluding part. Now, here is an alternative. The group leader starts 30 seconds, and then 3 minutes for one group member. It could be the group leader continuing the introduction with elaboration of the first point for 3 minutes, continued by the second speaker for another 3 minutes, and the last member of the group member number 3, will have the last key point and the conclusion. 3 minutes plus 30 seconds. Okay. Yeah. So, and this last person who present can freely decide what he or she will do with 3 minutes and 30 seconds. If this person wants to have a longer closing section, then he or she will have to cut short the allocated 3-minute time for the presentation. But that person is free to decide 2.5 minutes perhaps for elaboration, and then instead of just 30 seconds, then he or she will get 1 minute to conclude, okay? Because to conclude the group presentation of 10 minutes is not something that is easy if you have to do it in 30 seconds. Okay? So be flexible with all these suggestions. These are not rules. They are not written in the Bible or in the Quran. Okay? So you can freely adjust based on the situation. Okay? As long as you don't take more than 10 minutes. Okay? So that is basically what you will need to do. Okay, 2 weeks from now.
There you go. A really simple and effective way to end your presentation. So go ahead and use this in your next presentation, and you'll be sure to leave a good final impression on your audience. If you have any questions or comments, please write them in the comments section below or use the Contact Us page to send an email. Thanks, and see you again soon.
Okay, so now let's look at how all these suggestions are implemented. We're now going to watch a video of a real 3-minute presentation. Okay? It's a live recording of a 3-minute presentation done by one person. So it's probably almost like your individual presentation after the midterm exam. One person just again, this is like 3 minutes for one person. After the midterm exam, you will get 10 minutes just for yourself. Okay, all right. So now I will play this one. Okay, again, this is real. It's a 3-minute presentation. It's a contest, presentation contest. Okay, and the winner is anybody who can explain everything very clearly, perfectly in just 3 minutes. Okay, a research project, individual research project. So look at the beginning, how the MC begins the session and introduce the speaker. And after the introduction, pay attention on whether the speaker introduces herself again or not. Okay, because that is important. If you have already been introduced, you don't need to introduce yourself again. But if you're not appropriately or properly introduced, then you can take 2 seconds to introduce yourself. But while watching, look at the management, time management. In 3 minutes, how does the speaker manage the very short time allocated for her?
Our third finalist is Emily Johnston from the School of Pharmacy and Medical Sciences. Her presentation title is Mosquito Research, Saving Lives with Pantyhose and Paperclips.
Right. You may not be familiar with the topic because this is from the School of Health Science. Okay. And the topic that Emily Johnston is presenting is her research on mosquito. How to save life from malaria using pantyhose, stocking, female stocking, and paper clips, penjepit kertas. Okay. Don't worry if you cannot really follow the substance of the presentation. What you need to pay attention is the strategy, is the way she carries herself, how she speaks, body language, gesture, how to open, how to close. Okay, those are things that you need to pay attention. Disregarding your unfamiliarity with the health topic here. Okay, let's watch it.
I came to Australia to study the deadliest animal in the world. Now, there may be some Australian audience members thinking, Struth, science has finally recognized the importance of the drop bears. But I'm not studying drop bears, because around the world, by transmitting diseases like malaria and dengue fever, mosquitoes kill more than 1 million people every year, making them the deadliest animal on the planet. Now, in Australia, the most common mosquito-borne disease is Ross River virus, and it occurs at high rates in some areas, but not others. My question is why? What is it about certain areas that makes them breed disease? If we can understand the environmental factors that contribute to disease transmission, then we can alter the environment or target our control efforts to prevent human infections. But to answer that question, I had to find out where the infected mosquitoes were in South Australia. And traditionally, testing mosquitoes for virus has always been difficult. So I used a new technique. It takes these cards, which are embedded with virus-preserving chemicals, and coats them in honey. Mosquitoes will come to feed on the honey, and in the process, spit virus onto the card where it can later be detected. Now, no one had ever used this technique in a broad-scale virus survey before, so I had to adapt it. I developed new traps and set them at over 100 field sites across South Australia. Then I captured over 20,000 hungry mosquitoes and let them feed on the card for a week before testing the cards for virus. Now, you may not think that these traps look very impressive, but science doesn't have to be beautiful. It has to be effective, and these traps are proving to be our most sensitive method of detecting infected mosquitoes. I found 3 types of infection: Ross River virus, Barmah forest virus, and Stratford virus, which has never before been found in South Australia. I now have the virus data I need to conduct my analysis, and I'm collecting publicly available data about the environment surrounding my traps, like the density of human housing, the biodiversity of mammals, and the ratio of green space to buildings, to see if any of those environmental factors can link these virus hotspots that I've shown here. But the most exciting part of my research so far has been the success of this method. Public health officials in Victoria, Queensland, and Western Australia have been in contact with us about implementing this technique for their surveillance next year. And I developed these traps on a tight budget. I used recycled milk cartons, pantyhose, and paper clips to make the traps. Each trap costs less than $1 and can be reused for the whole season. That was important to me because the majority of mosquito-borne disease risk happens in economically impoverished countries. In India, for example, where about 1/4 of the population lives on $1 a day, there are 33 million cases of dengue infection every year. With my low-budget virus surveillance and spatial analysis method, I can help any country, regardless of resources, find out where their deadliest animals occur, why they're there, and how we can stop them from infecting humans. Thanks.
So 3 minutes. Imagine the amount of information you can deliver in just 3 minutes. Look at her. Very intense and a lot of information is transferred during the 3-minute time. So don't worry, don't be nervous about 3 minutes. Wah, pendek sekali ya, cukup nggak ya? It will be enough. There is always a chance that before 3 minutes you have already done with your part, and then suddenly you are shocked. Waduh, ternyata belum 3 menit masih ada waktu. Bagaimana ini? What else can I say? Ya, jadi your focus should not be on 3 menit pendek banget. Nyampe semua nggak? No. Okay. You can already see a tremendous amount of information, complex information about a topic or an issue that is not easy. And she manages to deliver it all in a relaxed way. She doesn't look in a hurry at all. She speaks fast, yeah. You don't need to speak that fast, okay? Yeah. But again, try to adopt her self-confidence. That is important because when you are confident, then you can present your ideas like you are having an informal conversation with people. It doesn't feel like a presentation. Number one. Now, in order to be able to obtain such self-confidence, there is no other way for you but to master the topic. You need to be a master of the subject that you're presenting. To the point that even without looking at the PowerPoint slide at all, you can still deliver all the messages. She hardly looks behind her. She hardly looks at her PowerPoint presentation, which is only one slide. Okay? She only uses one slide, very minimum writing, text, but very visual. Yeah, and what she is explaining can be easily followed because we have the visual in the background on that only slide. that she uses. But she combines the animation and so on with a video on the left bottom corner, okay, of that bottle that she uses to trap mosquitoes. So let's watch it again, step by step. Okay? Let's follow now her presentation step by step in order to find out the secret of her success.
Our third finalist is Emily Johnston from the School of Pharmacy and Medical Sciences. Her presentation title is Mosquito Research, Saving Lives with Pantyhose and Paperclips.
I came to Australia to study the deadliest animal in the world. Now,
okay, so that is the topic. The way she introduces the topic, the deadliest animal in the world, which is mosquito, but she doesn't say mosquito right away in the beginning.
maybe some Australian audience members thinking, Struth, science has finally recognized the importance of the drop bears.
Okay, so it's not about bears, it's about mosquitoes. But the way she starts, the strategy that she uses, that attracts attention. I come to Australia to study the deadliest animal in the world. The deadliest animal in the world. Sounds bombastic, exaggerating, but actually she's not exaggerating. If you follow her explanation, then it makes sense that mosquitoes turn out to be the deadliest animal in the world. Okay, so but the way she starts is kind of creating a suspense. Waduh, binatang apa ya ini? Okay.
But I'm not studying drop bears because around the world, by transmitting diseases like malaria and dengue fever.
So partly a joke. She laughs and then, but I'm not going to talk about bear. Okay. And then she starts with why question.
World by transmitting diseases like because around the world. But I'm not studying drop bears because around the world by transmitting.
See, because around the world, that is why. Yeah. Why deadliest animal in the world, mosquito? Because around the world, see, they focus on the why.
Diseases like malaria and dengue fever. Mosquitoes kill more than 1 million people every year, making them the deadliest animal on the planet.
Data, statistics, okay, numbers, figures that she uses in order to support her statement.
Now, in Australia, the most common mosquito-borne disease is Ross River virus, and it occurs at high rates in some areas but not others. My question is why? What is it about certain areas that makes them breed disease?
Subpoint number one, why some areas have the mosquito endemic while other areas don't experience mosquito endemic?
We can understand the environmental factors that contribute to disease transmission. Then we can alter the environment or target our control efforts to prevent human infections.
Okay, assumption or the solution that she offers. It must have something to do with environment, and if we understand the environment, then we understand why. Some areas have high rates, some areas have low rates.
But to answer that question, I had to find out where the infected mosquitoes were in South Australia. And traditionally, testing mosquitoes for virus has always been difficult.
Challenge, difficulty, okay, problem. Here is a problem. We want to do that, but this is a problem.
So I used a new technique. It takes these cards, which are embedded with virus-preserving chemicals.
All right, okay, so this is a solution, the answer to the problem. Look at the richness of the visual. Okay, it's not too dense. There are not too many objects put on the slide. Okay, there's some kind of pictorial information on the top right corner, and then you have a map there with dots showing where mosquito the areas that are inhabited by mosquitoes. And then on the right side, it's the simple trap that she designs, that she creates in order to trap mosquitoes.
And coats them in honey. Mosquitoes will come to feed on the honey and in the process spit virus onto the card where it can later be detected. Now, no one had ever used this technique in a broad-scale virus survey before, so I had to adapt it. I developed new traps and set them at over 100 field sites across South Australia. Then I captured over 20,000 hungry mosquitoes and let them feed on the card for a week before testing the cards for virus. Now, you may not think that these traps look very impressive, but science doesn't have to be beautiful. It has to be effective, and these traps are proving to be our most sensitive method of detecting infected mosquitoes. I found 3 types of infection: Ross River virus, Barmah forest virus, and Stratford virus, which has never before been found in South Australia. I now have the virus data I need to conduct my analysis, and I'm collecting publicly available data about the environment surrounding my traps.
All right, the findings, the result. Okay. Identification of 3 different types of virus. Okay. And that is invaluable data if you want to have a better understanding of why mosquitoes high rates in certain parts of Australia.
Like the density of human housing, the biodiversity of mammals, and the ratio of green space to buildings, to see if any of those environmental factors can link these virus hotspots that I've shown here. But the most exciting part of my research so far has been the success of this method. Public health officials in Victoria, Queensland, and Western Australia have been in contact with us about implementing this technique for their surveillance next year.
Okay. So the application or implementation of her finding. Okay, the government now is going to use her invention, a simple but effective invention.
And I developed these traps on a tight budget. I used recycled milk cartons, pantyhose, and paper clips to make the traps. Each trap costs less than $1 and can be reused for the whole season. That was important to me because the majority of mosquito-borne disease risk happens in economically impoverished countries. In India, for example, where about 1/4 of the population lives on $1 a day, there are 33 million cases of dengue infection every year.
Another statistics and supporting data to convince the audience further.
With my low-budget virus surveillance and spatial analysis method, I can help any country, regardless of resources, find out where their deadliest animals occur, why they're there, and how we can stop them from infecting humans.
That is the concluding statement, just one. With the invention that I made, we can do Let me repeat that part.
A day, there are 33 million cases of dengue infection every year. With my low-budget virus surveillance and spatial analysis method, I can help any country, regardless of resources, find out where their deadliest animals occur, why they're there, and how we can stop them from infecting humans. Thanks.
Okay, all right. So again, restatement of the 3 points. Where, why, and how to deal with them. Okay, yeah, and thanks. Okay. Without any signaling language, actually. She doesn't say in conclusion, with my invention. No. She just said, with my invention, we can. Yeah. But you may want to add that. Okay, with my in conclusion, and then whatever you want to say or restate. Okay. Now that is the award-winning 3-minute presentation by student. Okay. Yeah. Any question? Anything you want to say? I will stop share for the time being to allow people to comment, to ask question, or to say what you have in mind that is worrying you or troubling you in anticipation of the presentation that you will need to make as a group in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I want to ask something.
Ya, silakan Ichiro.
Is there any way or methods to gain such confidence? Lady before.
Yeah. You see, she starts right away getting into the topic, and she closes in a very effective way. All the time, she hardly looks at the slide behind her. She just speaks. Sometimes you can just count probably less than 5 times. She draws your attention to the slide, but without even looking at the slide. How can that happen? It's because that is her interest. It's because that is her own research. She is so familiar with the topic. She has a total mastery of the topic to the point that she can speak fast, uh, accurate, and effective without having to look at any notes. I'm not trying to say that you don't need notes. I would suggest that you have notes, like the first video that we watched last week, small pieces of paper containing notes. But to be able to gain the level of confidence like she has in the presentation that we have just saw, the key is mastery. If you are really good at your topic, at your subject, then you can do it. Even if you're in the middle of your sleep and then suddenly I wake you up with eyes half open, half closed, you can still, nyelocos, explaining everything and then go back to sleep, not even realizing what you have just done. Okay, when you get up in the morning later, right? It's because you're so good at the topic. So it is important when you get together with your group. So next week I will put you in breakout rooms. There will be 14 breakout rooms, 14 groups. And the 3 people in the group will need to agree on the topic that the group is going to present. Now it seems very easy, just 3 people, let's decide any topic and then do it. Not easy, because we want to make sure whatever topic the group agrees to pick, to choose, every member, all the 3 members of the group will have to have confidence and will have to be convenient with the topic. Jangan sampai ada satu orang milih, kita ngomongin tentang MotoGP. Aneka macam motor canggih dengan segala aksesorisnya. Only 2 people can speak about it with fun. Sementara satu orang depressed, nggak tahu apa-apa tentang motor itu. But then he or she will have to follow the majority. That is not good. So choose, agree on a topic that everybody in the group is comfortable, is confident. Biasanya yang paling enak social topics. Not a topic that is highly technical. Unless the 3 of you itu menghadiri kelas yang sama atau program yang sama, you learn the same thing, then yes, you can pick something that is very technical. Entah itu it could be computer technology or whatever. Yeah, see, you are from what group? Computer atau engineering? Nah, jadi bisa saja pick up one topic in engineering that the 3 of you are familiar with, dan itulah yang dipresentasikan. Okay, so that way you overcome problem number 1, which can cause crisis in self-confidence when doing a presentation, yaitu unfamiliarity with the topic. If you force somebody to present a topic with which he or she is not familiar, itu penderitaan. Ya, it's torture. 3 menit rasanya 3 abad. Okay. Now, the other 50%, separuhnya lagi apa? Source of confidence is your fluency in English. Nah, ini challenge. Jadi my prediction is for you, itu nanti the main challenge bukan mempresentasikan topiknya. Because I believe you will be able to agree on a topic that all the members of the group will have a good mastery of that topic. Yang saya akan terima sebagai suatu tantangan yang tidak mudah that you have to face adalah doing everything in English. Dengan orang tadi, she doesn't have a problem, of course, karena English is a mother tongue, it's a native language. But with you, yeah, it is always very likely that you have to struggle. Saya ngerti topik ini, tapi kalau harus menyampaikan dalam bahasa Inggris, mumet. Iya. So I can understand that. Maka itu my suggestion. Do not follow the pace seperti yang ada di contoh. You need to slow down your tempo. Cara kita mengatasi problem with fluency adalah you slow down the tempo, tidak nyerocos tanpa ada habis-habisnya. And say the word clearly, from the beginning until full stop for every sentence. The reason why we choose this topic is because 1, 2, and 3, tapi nggak ngebut-ngebutan. So you are still in control of your English to a certain extent. Itu saja sudah cukup. Hopefully, dua ini kombinasi, it will help you gain enough confidence. Yang penting enough confidence. You don't want to be too overly confident. But it's important to just enough portion of confidence for you to survive 3 minutes. Itu intinya. Okay? Yeah. And as you can see, in 3 minutes, there's a lot of things that can be said. Jangan khawatir. Okay. Jadi tadi itu adalah one very complex research, so many details. Sementara in your presentation, I don't expect you go very, very deep into the topic, which will force you to present much detail about the topic. Ini bukan in-depth presentation of a topic. Ini bukan skripsimu, bukan researchmu, ini adalah an exercise in doing a presentation in a very limited time slot. Jadi purpose-nya berbeda. Okay? Jadi when you choose a topic, jangan terlalu jauh atau terlalu dalam membongkar topik itu. Keep it just at the right level. Tidak terlalu dangkal, tetapi juga don't be trapped by the depth of the topic. Even if you know the topic very well. Let me also remind you that the group presentation will basically be a descriptive, not an argumentative. Now, cara memilih jenis descriptive presentation itu yang the most general and the most common, and probably is relatively easy to do, adalah how to. You want to explain how something is done. How something can be done in a better way. Okay. Jadi how itu adalah pertanyaan, adalah kata kuncinya. So if there are, let's say, 3 major steps in how to do something, maka speaker 1 bisa explaining step 1, speaker 2 bisa explaining step 2, speaker 3 bisa explaining step 3. Okay. So how itu adalah the most general descriptive question for presentation. Bisa juga instead of explaining a process or the procedure of doing something, itu you narrating, menceritakan sesuatu. This something can be an event, an incident, a happening, probably in the past, or in the recent present, not too far present, belum lama terjadi atau dari masa yang udah agak lama, sesuatu terjadi. And then you try to explain to people apa itu yang terjadi. Okay, so you're describing as it's seperti I'm on my way to campus, and then in the middle of my trip, I saw an accident antara Metro Mini and a motorcycle. Rame orang, then I slowed down, driving my car, watching, and then after I passed by the accident site, I continue driving all the way to campus. Sampai di kampus saya ceritain tadi ada kecelakaan. Itu sepertinya ada Metro Mini, mungkin dia berhenti mendadak, kemudian dari belakang ada motor yang kadung ngebut itu nabrak. Itu yang nyetir motor itu terpental, penumpang Metro Mini-nya banyak emak-emak teriak-teriak semua, histeris, loncat turun, supirnya mau kabur ketakutan. Masa ngumpul mau ngeroyok, sementara pengendara sepeda motor yang terjatuh di aspal itu nggak ada yang ngurusin, terlupakan. Itu narration, you are narrating. Tanpa arguing. You're not trying to provoke any argument. Dengan mengatakan yang salah ini, yang salah itu. Harusnya begini, harusnya begini. It's the same when you describe a process. Bagaimana mengerjakan sesuatu. Itu basically you explain the steps and the procedures. And you don't invite argument. Untuk itu. Okay. Jadi kira-kira seperti itu ya. Okay. So, jadi yang the first task group presentation itu should be relatively easy. It's kind of a warming up sebelum nanti you do your full 10-minute individual presentation. Gitu. Jadi itu juga membantu. Bebannya tidak terlalu berat. Maka hopefully you have enough confidence and you can still have fun during your group presentation. Kalau ada temennya salah-salah sedikit, kita ketawa rame-rame nggak apa-apa. Untuk menyemangati, ya, to create like a more friendly and relaxing atmosphere. Jadi dia tidak tegang. Ya. Okay, jadi which also good for your confidence. Hal-hal seperti itu, ya, tidak disengaja tiba-tiba something funny happens, gitu ya. And it makes us relax. Itu adalah good for confidence. Kira-kira seperti itu ya, Ichiro. We have any other question from the others? Tidak ada? Okay, now I will look at your grouping. Ya, saya buka. We have 14 groups altogether. Masing-masing isinya 3, except group 14, itu isinya adalah 2. What I'm going to do now, itu adalah let's do the first breakout session. Jadi I will open 14 breakout rooms. You put yourself in your groups. Jadi masuklah ke grupnya. Tanpa saya satu persatu manually put you or assign you to group. Yang pertama-tama dilakukan adalah dalam let's say 20 minutes, you have just 20 minutes, coba untuk mulai brainstorming topik apa nih kita nih. Jadi minggu depan waktu ketemu lagi itu sudah sangat lebih jelas bayangannya what topic you're going to do together. Jadi coba melihat-lihat whether you can reach a consensus in 20 minutes tentang sebuah topik. You don't talk about the details of the topic. Just whether one topic is agreeable to all members of the group or not. Okay? So I will create 14 breakout rooms. If you don't know which group you belong to, check our WhatsApp group. Scroll up and then you will find the group division. Waktunya sekarang 3.13, waktunya 20 menit, jadi akan kembali 35 lah. Jadi ada 5 menit untuk closing ya. Okay, so I will now create breakout for 14 groups. And I will let you choose your assigned room and create Open all groups. Okay, now go to your breakout room based on your grouping. I will close the breakout room in 3:35.
Halo, Bang. Iya, ya. Emang Gil grup 4? Salah. Ini nentuin topik dulu kan. Belum, kita nentuin ini.
Kita milih.
Iya. Iyalah, bisa dibuatin. Oh enggak, kita bebas. Apa ya? Ya.
Oh, berarti how to prevent phishing. How to prevent apa ya bahasa Inggrisnya?
Boleh.
Oh, how to prevent your data leaked pakai ending. Ya nggak sih?
Yes. Oh. Boleh. Bagaimana kalau keep privacy privacy from apa ya? Ini bahasa apa ini?
Kalau malicious website gitu nggak sih? Malicious. How to prevent malicious. Iya, bisa jadi orang yang masuk di situs HTTP ya kan, digas terus nggak pakai S. Biar ya apa? Hmm. Hmm.
Terlalu berat gak sih? Terlalu berat. Nanti pembahasannya juga kan kita kayak terlalu pusing gitu. Apa? Iya makanya.
Siapa yang nanya education?
Pelecehan seksual. Sering terjadi, woi. Oh itu aku lihat apa menghargai perbedaan agama itu loh. Yang pendeta itu tahu nggak?
Yang mana? Nggak tahu. Yang Kristen juga nggak tahu.
Jadi itu ada pendeta.
Iya.
Jadi bisa. Ya, jadi pendeta itu bilang kalau apa nyuruh hapus 300 ayat di Al-Quran gitu. Kayak itu loh, menghargai. Iya.
Ngeri.
Enggak, kita oh iya. Oh iya, sih. Siap. Apa ya? Dari zaman SD. Emang ada?
Nggak tahu gue. Apa ya? Oh ini. Buat buat deh.
Apa? Ini apa sih? Oh, bisa.
Bisa sih.
Itu bukan
Kalau
argumen
ini.
juga. Bukan
Ini.
argumen juga. Iya kayaknya. Kalau kita
Apa sih time management juga itu?
ya. Mantap.
Itu how to time management. Itu time management.
Iya.
Atau pakai argumen sendiri? Nggak boleh. Pakai pendapat pribadi.
Deskriptif. Iya sih, kayak iya.
Ya disuruh masukin apa nggak mau masukin? Oh.
Ini jadi apa nih? Itu time management.
Ini
Lu nulis apa? Oh. Argumen kayaknya itu. Gimana kalau ini multitasking?
How to avoid, cara menghindari atau
Enggak, jadi tuh kayak itu kayak kita membahas tentang multitasking tuh, apa dampaknya gimana secara kedokteran apa secara apa itu yang pernah dibahas di AUT itu loh. Iya.
Kan nggak boleh sebenarnya.
Iya, makanya. Udah tulis. Ketua. Bit. Kok
Dapat pemimpin dalam memimpin.
Oke, gas ya. Gas nih.
Yes.
Tahan. Ini ada nulis nih. Bentar. Anggotanya mana dah?
Jimmy yang siapa lagi atau lagi lupa.
Lu carry anjing. Wah, bahaya nih. Wah, sedih sih kalau gua sih gitu. Akasa. Loh. Akasa. Mungkin nggak ada. Siapa? Grup 1 sih ini yang serem sih. Kok bisa ada orang gitu ya?
Mau ditutup tuh.
Ya, dampak gitu secara kesehatan. Terus
Ya. Karena kita sendiri sebagai mahasiswa harus multitasking.
Iya. Kayak kita menganggap tuh multitasking tuh kayak mempercepat pekerjaan. Sebenarnya kan
sambil denger musik.
Sebenarnya
ini kita ngelihat kita ngelihat dari sumber lainnya tuh bahaya. Ya bahaya juga sih.
Ini nggak jadi di
Okay, so we haven't got any report from group 1, group 2, group 3, and group 6. So 1, 2, 3, 6 has not reported the group topic, which is fine. Okay. When you have come to a decision of your group topic for group 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, please write down on the list on our WhatsApp group. Okay. Yeah. So now 3 more groups. I know that group 1, there's only one person, Neza. Are you here, Neza?
Iya, Pak.
Yeah. So Neza, basically, Neza cannot decide the topic because the other 2 members of group 1 did not come to the session. Okay. Neza, what is your personal interest if you have to decide a topic?
I have decided the topic, Mister.
Which is what? Oh, importance of organized sleep.
Yes.
Okay, so the other 2 members will have to follow you. Okay, you decide the topic now, and it will be the topic of your group. Okay, please inform Jimmy and what's the other one?
Interrupsi, sir.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our group has same topic with Neza.
The organized sleep. What is your group?
Group number 10.
Sleep is the greatest bliss. Fine, no problem. Because I believe that 2 of you will approach sleep from a different perspective.
Okay.
Yeah?
No, Mister, I think I'm gonna change the topic.
Oh, Neza, do you want to join group 14?
No. I'm fine with group 1.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, but you will keep the topic, organized sleep.
No, I will change the topic.
Okay. But you haven't decided yet.
I have. I will write it down right now.
Okay,
sorry,
write
sir,
it down. Yeah.
But I'm not insist Neza to change his topic.
No. He wants to do it. It's not
Okay.
because of you. It's
Okay.
he voluntarily wants to change his topic. All right. Can you please now turn on your video, all of you, just for a few seconds, because I need to take a screenshot. Screenshot of all proof that we exist. Please open it. Selfie, Octavian, Audrey, Reza, Cynthia, Aka. On screen one more. All right. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. Don't close because I'm going now. Screen 2. Helmi, Shafira, Aldin, Firanda. Where are you, Shafira? Aum, Baikuni. Turn on. More, please. Come on. Okay. Aum, Helmi, Ahmad, Shafira, Reza. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay. So those of you who did not respond to me, although I see your blank video screen on my screen, on the attendance list, you are considered absent. Ada tadi 2 orang. Okay. Until the end of the group session, that person's video is off and there is no response to my call. Jadi dianggap sebagai absent. Ya. All right, that is all for today. Watch the video again. Next week, we watch some more videos and then I will put you in breakout room for a longer time because then you will begin to structure your presentation together. Okay. As a preparation for the following week. That's one thing. Second announcement that is important, pay attention to me. Tidak jadi soal you are in what group? Group 14, group 13, group 10, group 9. All groups, all the 14 groups sudah harus upload group PowerPoint on the Google Drive folder pada minggu keempat sebelum presentasi dimulai. Okay? Jadi minggu keempat saat presentasi kelompok 1 sampai 4, it's not just group 1 to 4 that have to submit their PowerPoint, but all groups. Deadline-nya adalah the day before next Thursday, berarti Wednesday evening. Ya, nanti saya tulis di WhatsApp group Wednesday evening, mungkin jam 12 malam kalau enggak Wednesday night, supaya hari Kamisnya semua sudah ada lengkap 14 group PowerPoint. Is that clear? Clear? Understood? Okay. So yes, you can turn off your video and I let you go. I will end the session. Have a good day. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day. Thanks, sure.